Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to OneValley's latest pitch event, Spotlight on Boston. I'm Alec Wright, the Chief Innovation Officer of OneValley, and today we have 8 incredibly exciting seed stage founders emerging from the Boston ecosystem that we're really honored and excited to bring to this audience. It's a great opportunity to be able to convene founders, investors, and the entire ecosystem, especially important today as we're driving for virtual connectivity and networking while we're still getting back to normal. Before we get into the pitches, we'd like to share a little bit about OneValley. OneValley is an innovation platform that's been around for about 8 years. We've supported hundreds of startups through our physical innovation centers. Over $1 billion has been raised by our community, and we have over 200,000 entrepreneurs that are supported through our online innovation communities, both Passport as well as to our partners communities. And we love running events that bring the ecosystem together. Before COVID, we were running 80 events a year. Today, we're running them virtually, and today is a great example of one of those events. Tonight is particularly important to us and particularly meaningful because we're pulling the Boston startup community together. We, over the past 2 years, had over 130 startups in our Boston Innovation Center. Over 200 events were run, hundreds of investors, and that community raised over $200 million in venture capital. However, as a result of COVID, we were forced to close down the Boston Innovation Center. However, we don't want, we're so excited and still always pushing for and engaging with the Boston community through events like this, as well as continuing to support the Boston community, as always, through Passport, which is our online resource hub and community for startups from around the world. Has over 35,000 members, dozens of partners in every different vertical, hundreds of mentors, and nearly $1 million in discounted and free technology tools and services. Everything that a startup needs to grow their business and ultimately be successful. Share a little bit about Passport. So that's Passport, again, our resource hub and community available for startups anywhere in the world. And if you're viewing today, you can get 25% off a premium Passport membership using the code PITCH. We're always excited to grow that community and share our resources with emerging founders, from Boston and beyond. Before we get started into this pitch conversation tonight, it's my pleasure to welcome a fireside chat of a great group of Boston founders. We have Diasti from Viv, we have Rahkeem Morris from Syrg, and we have Khaled Kteily from Legacy. A great group of emerging, pre-Series A founders. And this conversation will be moderated by my colleague, Kara O'Keefe, who leads the strategic partnership and programs team at OneValley. Kara, do you want to take us away?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alec. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're really excited to have 3 Boston-based founders who are all actually OneValley community members as well. I would like to start off by introducing each of them. So first off is Diasti. She is the founder of Viv, an earth-friendly direct-to-consumer period care brand innovating in the sustainable consumer goods space. Katie, actually, fun fact, pitched at our first ever pitch event in OneValley Boston location in 2019. Our second speaker is Rahkeem Morris, who's the founder of Syrg, which is a service for employers to hire former workers for shifts and projects on demand. Rahkeem was the winner of our pitch event back in August 2020. And finally, Khaled Kteily is the founder of Legacy, Legacy offers from-home fertility services for men with a goal to change the outdated view that fertility is a women's issue. Khaled also participated in OneValley sponsored EWC events in 2019 and 2020 and was the winner of the US National Final Competition. Thank you guys for joining. So I'd love to get it started today by asking each of you to give us a quick overview about your fundraising background for your company, and would also love to know, what was the main factor that involved you when you decided to first start seeking funding. Rahkeem, let's start with you.
Yeah, so the main reason why I wanted to begin fundraising for the company, I would assume is the same as many of you on the call today and my fellow co-founders and panelists. I have a big vision, and that big vision needs funding in order to get off the ground. And I'm not sure if you asked for the timeline. I think you did ask for the timeline. I graduated with my MBA in 2018 and began fundraising in the last month of school, about May. We were able to raise and close a round about $1 million in August 2018. And we recently closed a seed round in October of 2020. That's a brief history. So a pre-seed round leading to a seed round.
Awesome, very cool. Katie, what about you?
Yeah, so we originally wanted to raise because we were live, we were launched, we were selling our products, but we were getting an overwhelming response from our customers demanding a new product offering that did need some upfront capital to actually create and bring to market. We were really excited about bootstrapping and being a scrappy startup for a long time, which we were doing. And it came to a point where we needed to get this product to market to continue to grow as a brand. And that's what led to our decision. We're raising our pre-seed and are at the end of that right now. And it's our first time raising as a company. And it's been a really interesting experience given the current state of the world doing so.
I bet. Khaled, what about you?
I had very mixed feelings about raising VC funding in the early days. I thought it was absurd that people were raising at such high valuations. I didn't think that we needed millions of dollars to get the company off the ground. I felt like I just need like 100 or 200K and we'll be fine. Need enough money to survive. So what I ended up doing is I raised, I guess what would now be called a pre-seed round of a couple 100K, just good from my extended network. When I just had started the company, this was really May 2018. In December 2018, when we were debating whether or not to raise a venture capital round, we ended up participating in TechCrunch Disrupt, and we won, and we suddenly got a lot of inbound interest, which we decided that we would take advantage of. We ended up raising around, we ended up raising our first million from Bain Capital Ventures in April 2019. In a funny turn of events, we got accepted to Y Combinator a week after we got that term sheet. So we shut down our raise, went through YC, and then raised another 2.5 million after YC. So in total, we had raised about 3.5. That was broadly throughout, I don't even know what year it is anymore, broadly throughout 2019. And then more recently, we kicked off our Series A raise.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I would be remiss if I didn't start this chat off with a location-based question, as today we're talking to 3 Boston-based founders. I'd love to know from you guys, how much do you think location matters when you're fundraising? And have either of you or any of you ever felt that you were at a disadvantage during your raise because you weren't based in Silicon Valley? Khaled, why don't we start with you? As you mentioned, you did end up going to Y Combinator. Would love to hear your experiences with that.
Sure. Yeah. I think there are a lot of preconceived notions that investors have about where you are based. I think where you are based doesn't matter that much in the day-to-day. Certainly, there are levels of serendipity that you will have. For example, we run a male fertility company. We met a urologist who was based here in Boston, who ended up being a friend of a friend of a friend kind of thing. And that kind of serendipity is nice to have and is driven by the city that you're in. I don't think it changes much about your business, but I do think it changes the way that VCs perceive you. I think that if you are based in New York and you're a consumer-facing or fintech company, then you're taken a bit more seriously. I think the same is true for kind of pure tech in San Francisco. I would say that being in healthcare work, Boston is a phenomenal city to be in. If you're doing biotech, if you're in healthcare, just given the strength of the schools that are around here, I actually think that we got a bit of a bump, and we really doubled down on this idea that we are a healthcare company first. That's why we founded in Boston, and I would say that it ended up being a bit of an advantage. It could be a bit of a it could have been a bit of a disadvantage under other circumstances.
Rahkeem, what about you? What has your experience been engaging with investors outside of the Boston market?
Yeah, so generally positive experience. I say when I was raising the pre-seed round, I did a lot of, not a lot of, but a handful of people saying that your company's at this stage and I'd like to be near you, given the stage of your company. So I got that from 3 investors. At the same time with the pre-seed, I met with maybe 30 or 40 or so. So about 10%. Those investors expressed some concern like that. Other than that, I have not felt as if I've been hindered by being based in Boston and raising money for this company. And I'd say even with the pandemic, it's a non-issue completely nowadays, especially with Zoom and connecting in this way.
Yeah, with everything having to be a virtual meeting now, it makes it much easier.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a different question for you that's more about the Boston investor landscape. So what is your product is CPG, female focused. What has been your experience in pitching your product to predominantly male investor groups in the Boston area?
Yeah, absolutely. There are definitely some pros and cons. Of course, we can't simply send investors our products for them to try out and experience on their own. And so having to make it a way that we can show them what our products are like to our customers has been really key. And sometimes we do have to spend a little bit more time explaining our problem. We have to show a lot of reviews. But I think a positive element is that people truly believe we're experts in this market and they understand that. And we use it as a teaching opportunity oftentimes when we're pitching. And I'd say if you're pitching a female focused product, stick to your numbers and show how massive a market this really is and how big of a pain point it is for so many women and how you can make an impact in that space. And that's been crucial for us. And I think a really good investor understands that not every product out there is made for them, but they can see such demand in the space.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. All 3 of you, and as you've mentioned in your introduction, all 3 of you have been participants in really great accelerator programs. I'd love to know what the value of those programs were for you, and how did it impact your growth? What did you go in hoping to get, and what did you essentially get? Khaled, do you want to start?
Sure. So we have run the gamut. I mean, we have really gone around when it comes to the accelerator systems. We started at the Harvard iLabs. We were part of the LLX cohort, which was for alumni-led ventures. We spent about 9 months there, actually closer to 12. That was extremely useful because in the early days, just the structure and the network, I didn't come from a particularly entrepreneurial background. I was at the Kennedy School. My friends were in policy. My friends were doing very different things. And so just building that network was extremely valuable, and having a bit of a structure helped as well. Because, you have a desk to go to every day. You have people who are sitting around you who can give you advice. We had a Slack channel, the little things, because before that I was just, me at a coffee shop with a privacy screen because I was Googling sperm images all day long. After that, we went through YC and Mass Challenge simultaneously. I will be very direct and say that Mass Challenge was largely an opportunity for us to participate in some of the larger cash prizes. So for example, the Gold Award, which we won last year, that award goes up to $50,000, and that's a meaningful amount of money. Certainly there were some areas where we were able to plug into some of the mentors. They had a couple of good healthcare focused mentors who were in the program. And then we had YC as well, which I think has clear advantages and disadvantages. First and foremost, for anyone who's in the Boston ecosystem, I was very convinced that we needed to have kind of that West Coast ticket. YC is that golden ticket. It's where West Coast investors take you seriously, because there is such a disconnect between East Coast and West Coast investors. It's very interesting. Every East Coast investor knows everyone else. They're on the same WhatsApp, Telegram, whatever groups. Same on the West Coast, very little overlap. So for us, that was an opportunity to get into demo day, to pitch to all the VCs on the West Coast. We did bring on some fantastic investors who are on the West Coast who I don't think would have invested in us otherwise. I think the dirty secret of Y Combinator that a lot of people don't recognize is the batch sizes are huge now, right? There is 200 plus companies per batch. I think it was maybe 140 or something when we were there last summer. So, you know, you're not going to get the level of, nobody's going to hold your hand. You're not going to get hyper personalized attention. It is a forcing function to make sure that you are getting your shit done, that you are doing your work. It is a platform for you to be able to pitch to the world and raise funding. But I don't think anybody should be under false illusions that YC is going to teach you how to run a company or start a company.
Rahkeem, what about you? I know you have also an interesting experience with the accelerator, you know, that was sponsored by a venture capital firm. Would love to hear about your experiences with the Underscore Accelerator.
Yeah, absolutely. Underscore Accelerator, I began this while I was in my last semester in school getting my MBA, and well, they are the ones that led my pre-seed round. And so through the accelerator, we were able to have on a weekly basis conversations with partners, and not only conversations with them, but them working on the problem that you're facing with your company you're trying to solve on a weekly basis with venture capitalists. And what comes as a result is a really tight message. You begin to understand intuitively what they're looking for. And as a result, our pre-seed round was open and closed quite quickly. There are other accelerators that we went to that there's so many at this point. I've forgotten all of them, or most of them at this point, but there's been quite a few. I remember most of them. One of the joys of the unexpected joys of the accelerator is that since you're working on your business alongside other founders, you forge really strong relationships with them. And I have people over at my house, whether it's for dinner or for barbecue, and these inevitably turn into founder therapy sessions, especially with a couple of beers being passed around. And it's really a way to be able to connect with people that are in the same circumstance as you are, which is, as you go along your journey, you find to be one of the most important things that assets that you have is a really good group of founders that you trust or respect, who can give you advice. And those same people will also give you introductions to investors. And so most of my introductions are from the founder friends that I have forged these relationships with.
Absolutely. Katie, what about you? How is your experience? I know you were in the SSC Accelerator program.
Yes, we did SSC in 2019, and then we did Mass Challenge this past summer in 2020. And I think we went in to Mass Challenge especially craving structure, which was a little silly given that, like people have mentioned prior, you get what you put in to accelerators. And if you're going to ensure that mentors and people are holding you super accountable to your KPIs and that you're hitting all your goals, that's great. But a lot of that does come from you, and you need to show that. That network in particular was super valuable, and both of them were for our current round, but also bringing on mentors that were super experienced in our space. A lot of people in the CPG and personal hygiene space became mentors and advisors to us, which was incredibly valuable. Because this past summer was virtual, was slightly less experience with getting to meet more founders, but building networks in other ways has been crucial as founder as well.
Absolutely. And I think that point that you were in Mass Challenge in 2020 during COVID goes nicely into my next question. All three of you, raised last year, and I would just love to know, what was the experience like fundraising during COVID? Katie, do you want to start? Sorry.
Yeah, so it's my first time ever fundraising. We're an early stage startup, and it was during a pandemic and lots of instability in our government. And it's been quite an experience, to say the least. But I think what I learned the most is that investors are also real people, and 2020 was hard for a lot of people. And sometimes you need to follow up more often, and literally had investors say, I'm sorry, my kid has COVID right now, I'm a bit busy, and that's why I'm not responding to you, and understanding that's really transparent. But at the same time, raising right now can prove a lot. And I think if you're able to do so successfully and prove that there's room for your business in the future, that's going to be exceptional to show.
Absolutely. Rahkeem, what about you? For you?
Yeah, this is not related to investors directly. However, the paperwork that we had to do with the state and the government, all of that is completely, it's a black box and you can't find anything about it. So you submit things to the government, it takes 4 weeks to come back, things that used to take 2 hours. And there was so much of my time spent with that. I almost regret that's the thing I learned the most raising during COVID. By and large, the investors were just as responsive as they were, at least for me, before and after.
Khaled, did you find that you had to change, the way you were pitching once things started going virtual?
Yeah, well, we really leaned into the whole, the world's up in flames, presidential elections disputed, possible recession, global pandemic. We said, you know what, this is a unique opportunity in a way. The main reason being, one big disadvantage of being in Boston is a flight to San Francisco is 6 hours there, 6 hours back. Even New York, you're talking about a 3.5 hour Acela. And so we just went super, super aggressive on the fundraising, averaging probably 3 or 4 investor calls a day. And the nice thing is you can do this because, you start your day with the East Coast investors, right? And then you end your day with the West Coast investors. And here's the dirty secret for anyone who's thinking about pitching. Here's what you do. You get a big fat monitor, you put it in front of you. On the left-hand side, like the left half of your screen is your slides. The right half of your screen is a script. Now, here's the beauty. You can have a big fat script and big text, and investors can't really tell. I might be reading off one right now, because if you're good enough at it, they can't see your eyes moving. So you don't even need to look at them. You just give your pitch, and now you have nailed every sentence, every inflection, every tone. You have an FAQ ready for yourself, depending on whatever questions they're going to ask, that you can just scroll to. I put like a hashtag or a pound, and then like the key title for whatever questions I thought I would get, like market sizing. So I could do a quick control F, hashtag market, and it would pop up the perfect answer. So really, there's an advantage. I'm not that quick on my feet usually if I'm in person, but when I have the answers right in front of me, that helps a lot. So that is my strong advice to anyone who's doing it now.
That's really great advice. All the founders right now are running to do that for their pitches. Little last minute for that.
I don't even look at their face. I don't even know how the investors are reacting. I just give my pitch.
Awesome. So we're going to start wrapping up, but I'd love to just ask each of you, and Khaled did this a little bit, what's your best piece of advice that you like to give to founders who come to you that are about to begin their fundraising? Rahkeem, let's start with you.
Yeah, it's practice. The first time we raised, we were part of a 3-day pitch competition. Every single day, we did our pitch in front of 50 investors, and they gave us 30 minutes of feedback. We did that 4 days in a row. At the end of that, the pitch was hitting a phenomenal rate. And going to my seed round, I wasn't able to practice as much given COVID. Now I think about it, that's one of the learnings from last year. So not going through as many investors and pitching the idea. But the thought is that if you go through it a couple of times, have these conversations with investors and not necessarily be fundraising at that time, you are going to begin to spot those questions, those FAQs that people ask you, and you'll have them at the drop of a dime when someone asks you on that 45th time that you're going to pitch your deck.
Thanks. Katie, what about you?
Yeah, I would say start earlier than you think you need to. And there's that whole saying, if you wanted advice, ask for money. If you want money, ask for advice. And I think we spent at least a month to a month and a half just purely asking people for advice and asking for feedback on our deck. And especially being young female founders, we knew we had to have our numbers really tight and have every single question like ready to go answered. And I will say I've used Khaled's advice of having things on the screen so that I can always just find it and have an answer for them, which has been magical. Another aspect I would say is build another network of founders who are there to support you. And I think a lot of intros that we've gotten to some amazing investors have been via other founders, and that's been awesome.
Yeah, the founder network is really important. We've seen that, here at OneValley Boston, and in OneValley San Mateo. Khaled, any parting words other than the?
I'm gonna leave it on a very cynical note,
Okay.
which is just remember, investors are not there to be your friend. Investors have a fiduciary duty to their investors to make them a lot of money, and therefore, by extension, they really only care about you if you think you have the chance to make them a lot of money. And this is something my friends reiterated a lot to me when I was applying to YC. It's like, make them see dollar signs. That's the most important thing. And just remember, if they're not getting back to you within 24 or 48 hours, it's not good. So.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much for your time. Really exciting to see how far actually all three of you have come. Even in a year, we've seen amazing growth. Thank you for being part of the OneValley community. And we're really excited to see where you guys go next. Alex, I'm going to pass it back over to you so we can start hearing some awesome Boston-based pitches.
Thank you so much, Kara. Really, really appreciate it. And, want to thank our panelists again. A special thank you to Katie, Rahkeem, and Khaled. Just great insight, great perspectives, and definitely something that, any early stage founder that is thinking about raising capital, growing a team, should have on their radar. And so, again, thanks to our panel for all of that great advice and perspective. We're now ready to get into the pitches. As you all know, this is, as Kara mentioned, our spotlight on Boston. We have three exceptional judges that are going to be with us tonight. We have Khat Zorig, who's a venture partner at Innospark. We have Evon Onusic, who's a co-founder at Delta Sift, and we have Juan, Scarlett, who's the managing director of OneValley Ventures. I'm going to give each one of our judges a minute or two to introduce themselves in their background, and then we'll get into our first pitches. Khat, do you want to get us started?
Absolutely. Thanks, Alec. Here, I'm trying to come on video here. Hi, everyone. My name is Khat Zorig. I'm from Innospark Ventures. We're a Boston-based fund investing in early-stage AI companies based in Boston, New England area, or at least the northeast part of the US. We were founded by two of our GPs who essentially pulled together their own money to build a $100 million fund to really address the early-stage funding gap that we talked about on the East Coast. One GP is a deep AI expert, a founder of multiple successful AI companies, and the other one ran Bain Capital for many years. And we focus on pre-seed to Series A and B, and really take a kind of a hands-on strategic partner approach with our portfolio companies, and some of which are included here. We're a small team who are all former operators and are having a lot of fun finding, investing in, and working closely with high impact companies here. I joined after working on a startup myself that was at the intersection of AI and mental health, and bring a few years of enterprise SaaS product development experience. So I have my contact info here on the bottom. Reach out if you have, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur working on an AI-led idea. Super excited to see all the amazing companies pitch here today.
Thank you so much, Khat. Really appreciate the introduction in the background. Evon, do you want to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Alec, for obviously having me on here. Altogether, my background's a little bit, I would say, not the typical thematic investor route or the founder route. I actually got into an argument with my college professor about how to score and grade my Mandarin classes. So I ran off to China to learn Mandarin. So 我可以说一遍 came back, and that was actually how I got my first job in Silicon Valley. And before then, Silicon Valley was very much so this nebulous, I would say, untalked about space where I went to school. And so once I kind of got that first opportunity, got my feet wet as far as an entrepreneurship, I got hooked, as I think everybody does. But in short, I started a company called Algo, shortly after I had one of the first hacker houses in Silicon Valley. Algo went on to be acquired in 2017 by one of the largest data aggregators for social media called Meltwater, where I helped to run in several different initiatives as a senior product manager. And then shortly after that, that was my introduction here into the digital marketing space, where then we went and founded a data focused and data science first company called DeltaSift, where we really pride ourselves on applying the application of heavy analysis to actually making thematic decisions in your actual acquisition strategy or digital strategy. And the biggest thing, which is obviously not so obvious here, is in the namesake of DeltaSift, which is very much so fundamental to who I am as an individual. But Delta meaning change and Sift to search for. Very much so is applied to how we also think about the space and where we really use our process to help nonprofits and to help donate capital where we can to be effective in communities of, necessary need of privilege. So, that has been our legacy now for the last couple of years, and obviously very excited to hear you all speak, and hopefully could be of help in outside of this realm as well.
Thank you, Evan. Really appreciate it. And finally, Juan, do you want to take it, wrap it up?
Sure. Thanks, Alex. Good afternoon. I'm Juan Scarlett, Managing Director at OneValley Ventures, where we're launching multiple venture fund strategies to support startup ecosystems around the world. We are currently making pre-seed and seed stage initial investments in standout companies from across the OneValley ecosystem and our partner networks. We're primarily focused on digital transformation companies with dynamic founders who are tackling high-value problems in attractive markets. I myself have been in the venture investing industry for the past 14-ish years and in public technology investing for about 6 years prior to that. Before joining OneValley, I led an early stage investment effort at Nimble Ventures based in San Francisco. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing everyone's pitches today. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Juan. And again, thank you again, Khat, Evan, Juan. Really looking forward to hear what you think of our pitches today and getting some of your feedback. We'd also like to give a quick shout out to all of our supporting organizations that helped us recruit startups, promote the event. Without incredible ecosystem partners like these, events like this wouldn't happen, and the entire OneValley community wouldn't be possible. So thank you again to all of our partner organizations. And finally, what we're all here for, our grand prize winner today is going to get $3,000 in cash prize, a free passport membership, premium membership for a year. And then we also have the People's Choice Award. So again, everyone who's watching this, don't forget to sign in, vote. You can pick your favorite teams, and we'll be awarding $500 to the presenter who was the most popular in the audience. And we'll actually even be giving a free passport membership to one of our audience members, but you have to vote to be eligible. So please, tell us what you think. And ultimately, we'll be hearing from our judges as to who the grand prize winner is today. And again, we are ready to get started with 8 great early stage companies from the Boston ecosystem. First, we'll be hearing from Ian at Adaviv, then Jyotsna from Kiva Health, Adam from Monetics, Nick and Nick from Recover Athletics, Madison from Mount, Sharonda from Cause EDU, and Carl from Boundless Robotics, and finally Jacqueline from Portico. We have a great group of founders here tonight that we'll all be hearing from. But again, a reminder for our audience, be part of the action. You can ask questions to the startups in chat. We'll do our best to get one of those or 2 of those in Q&A. You can vote for your favorite companies and again, have an opportunity to win passport. And again, if you're an investor, if you're a potential customer of one of these companies, you can request an introduction in the live stream and you'll be connected with the presenting founder. So again, stay involved, ask questions, vote, request introductions, and we're ready to get started. It's my pleasure to welcome our first presenter to the stage, which is Ian from Adaviv.
Great. No, thank you. Thanks all for having us. Khat, Evan, Juan, thanks for being here and listening to our pitch, and super excited to hear everybody else and to the other founders that had the great fireside talk again earlier. Super helpful stuff. My name is, I'm going to start now. My name is Ian Seiferling. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Adaviv. We're an MIT spinoff aiming to really usher in a new generation of profitable, highly efficient, controlled environment farms in order to, what we say, make every farmer really the best farmer today. And that means growing the highest quality food and medicines in a really efficient and sustainable way. We, you know, I'm Canadian, so I'm not good at the bragging thing, but you know, I think we've got an awesome team that we've built. We really cover every dimension of the business, from myself with a background in biology, having grown up in and around farms. Julian is our COO. He brings really operational experience and business acumen. And Mo, our rock star AI expert with a background in quantum physics and machine learning. We're starting in that big mission. We're starting with the challenge of solving the massive crop loss and consistency challenge that is costing growers and farmers $220 billion a year. So it's a problem across ag, but also including indoor and controlled environment agriculture, whereas we play. It's the growers' #1 cultivation challenge and pain point today. Crops are underperforming. They're missing their yield targets 40% of the time. And for high value crops like medicinal cannabis, which is where we're piloting and our beachhead market, that's $1 to $4 million revenue that they're losing every month for the average size grower. So they're leaving a lot of money on the table because of these crop loss and consistency challenge issues. Why? Like, why is it happening? It's because essentially they lack the visibility and the traceability over all those plants at that scale. Pest and disease, they're really hard to detect. And by the time they realize that there's a problem, it's already spreading, it's already impacting the yield and the quality. There's a lot of hands working with these plants. There's equipment, it's failing, and decisions are heuristic. So it's really complicated system, and they essentially just lack the tools to monitor and to communicate all these critical issues effectively. So what we say, you know, and what we're doing is giving those growers digital eyes on every plant. We're really enabling them to use what we call data-driven lean cultivation methodology. And that's meaning the visibility to run their cultivation processes with really the health and the performance of each plant at the center as the key driver, effectively, you know, error-proofing the grow. So for managers, it's giving them that remote oversight. And for the growers, it's allowing them to treat those critical hotspots quickly and know what treatments and recipes are working and what's not working. How do we do it? We've built a really great product so far to date. Our automated crop scanner, we call it the Mantis. It moves along the greenhouse walkways. It scans every plant and detects plant stress, pests, diseases. Our in-house AI engine translates that data into KPIs. And our farm app and our computer vision reports, they enable the workers to easily locate the hotspots and really resolve all those sources of yield loss and track the treatment's effectiveness. We also bring that visibility up to the managers through our action board so that they can root cause and become really proactive rather than reactive with our yield forecasting abilities. We're actively deployed with a few operators today. We've already seen really strong impacts from our solution. We've quickly been able to help them be aware of 4 to 7 times more critical plant health issues, root cause those, get those under control, and the results have been consistent 20% yield gains from their previous baselines. And for a mid-market kind of smaller size operator that we've been focused working with, these kind of bumps bring them another $3.5 million extra revenue straight to their bottom line. And that's for like a $20 million size, $25 million revenue company. We provide the solution through a SaaS pricing model where we're charging $8 per square foot. This wraps up everything, including the sensor, into a single subscription. And it gives us 80% gross margin, still also providing like a huge 900% ROI for the customer. And that's even calculated just on a conservative 5% yield bump. And we're already seeing 15, 20% yield bumps with our early customers. We're building this company really to be a major player in the future of sustainable agriculture. But like, our analogy is like Tesla. We're starting by building the sports car for the high value, rapidly growing cannabis market. Today, that's 1 billion TAM for us. We'll pilot early with greenhouse tomatoes to collect that data that we need. And then we'll leverage our revenue from cannabis and our product market fit solution to build the affordable car for the fresh vegetable market, which is also in North America, a $1 billion TAM. Then our plan is through key partnerships with ag corporates and greenhouse constructors and leasers, we're going to sell rapidly into those markets and expand to the 12 million global market, which includes South America and the EU, where controlled environment agriculture is already a huge market. We've leveraged a lot of amazing support, as we just talked about earlier, how key that is. First and foremost, coming out of the MIT community. We're currently leveraging ag experts and advisors through some of the programs that we're involved with. We've built a really strong network through a cannabis advisory board, and we have really great technical and business mentorship as well. And finally, we've built a really strong customer pipeline with a clear path to 10 million ARR. We just signed a new large player that's going to 5x our coverage, our canopy coverage. So we're super excited to increase our bandwidth now to serve those customers and to bring our product to market. So with that, if you're interested in our mission and you want to get in touch, please do, and we'll be happy to talk. But thank you for the time today and the opportunity to present here.
Thank you so much, Ian. Really enjoyed the pitch, and exciting to learn the technology you're working on and the places where you're applying it. And certainly congratulations on the progress to date. Seems like great early traction. I'd love to throw it to some of our judges. Maybe Evan, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. Ian, thank you for your time, obviously tackling this massive problem that's not only very much so challenging the United States, but also developing economies as well. My biggest question actually is just a point of clarification. Are you only a layer as far as, SaaS is concerned that operates on existing equipment, or do you also build and help, cannabis growers, for example, utilize your own equipment that you might have put together?
Yeah, so great question. And it's a bit of a hybrid approach. So what we want to do is maintain and even in the future become more and more agnostic to the hardware. So we don't want to get bogged down in hardware development, but at the same time, our approach is really a data first strategy. So to get this high quality, high resolution data where we can get imagery and multi-dimensional sensor data for each and every plant, we had to build our scanner system ourselves today. Having said that, it's all off the shelf components. We're looking now to outsource the assembly of that. And it's the value there is really it's plug and play. The growers don't have to install any infrastructure. That's a huge friction point for them. Is it going to cost a lot up front? Are we going to have to install this into our facility? They're really wary about that kind of stuff. So we want to be plug and play, drop our solution in. That's the core of our data. At the same time, we can integrate with their environmental sensors that are already in place and all those inputs. Because today they're collecting data, they're collecting temperature, humidity, inputs, nutrients, but really they don't know what to do with it all. So, that's part of our play here too, is to put the plants first, but also integrate the data that's just sitting there in those data lakes right now and really extract the value out of that and help them down the line, generate better growing recipes is really the golden egg that we're chasing.
Got it. Well, then on that note too, just to tug at that a little bit deeper, and then I will pass the baton here. But as far as the actual modeling you're doing today on the data side, how much of it is, out of the shelf, off the box, standard modeling versus how much of it is proprietary from not only just a data source collection perspective, but also just from some of the hard feature set work you've done. Obviously, you have a credible team, so I assume there's some done. But love to learn a little bit more about that whenever you reference your in-house AI engine.
Yeah, so we've got 2 patents pending, and those are essentially system-based patents. They include the backend and what we're doing with the AI and the modeling, but they also include like what type of data we're getting, how we're getting that data, and how we turn it into some valuable KPIs. But in terms of the modeling itself, it's a combination. We're obviously using off the shelf architectures. Everybody is for the most part in AI, but there is a lot of tricks that we can do to generate more data faster. So we do a lot of secret sauce kind of data manipulation, data synthesis to basically get more out of the data that we collect. We have a plant scientist on board and that's key to work with our AI scientists to really know how to train these models really well. What we've seen out there is really that most AI in agriculture sits at a very kind of superficial level. And we're now moving into diagnosing very specific problems. And for that, you need to understand the plant science behind it, what you're looking for. And that's, I think, the value in us owning our own annotation pipeline as well. We have an annotation team in Colombia. One of our co-founders, Julian, is from Colombia. And so we're really able to, I think the core of what I'm trying to say and what we do is we can really rapidly push through new diagnosis through our pipeline. And I think that's where a lot of value in the secret sauce lies for us, because, you know, we tell the growers where the hot spots are. That's the low hanging fruit, but every grower we go into might have a specific issue they're facing today. And we can quickly, we've shown that with the pilot, they had a russet mite issue, and we're quickly able to ramp up models and help them, you know, root cause those.
I think we have time for one additional question. Either Khat or Juan, do either of you have a particularly burning question for Ian?
I do. I could ask. Hi, Ian. Really
Hey,
good
Khat.
to see you again.
You too.
Funny thing, we were talking about accelerators earlier. Ian and I, my old company, when we were going through Delta V at MIT together. And so Ian's company was one of those that really stuck around. So I'm so happy to see all the progress here. My key question here is really on I think what Evan was also trying to get at, which is, this is obviously a big market, right? Big opportunity. There's so many other players who are trying to do similar things, and especially within the cannabis market as well. So, you know, what really makes you different? Who are all the competitors, and what makes you truly competitive against those?
Yeah, there's a lot going on in agriculture for sure. It's getting really hot, like people's attention turning there. It's been a traditional industry for a long time. I think a few things. So for us, I mentioned data first strategy. That's a big differentiator for us, is our ability to get in quickly, collect that data and own that data and build up a really strong data moat, because we can deploy remotely. We can come in really lightweight and plug and play. Our competitors, you know, and there's actually not that many. There's a couple in the indoor ag space, and less so in competitors that we look at would be like a Prospera or a Unu. Those are two that actually use plant health and use some computer vision. The rest, you know, that are in that space is a lot of environmental sensing, IoT stuff, and we just think you just can't actuate on that type of data that much. You know, you really need to understand what the plant is telling us. But within that space of plant health analytics and computer vision, again, it's you know, this sweet spot for them, the value very quickly in a couple crop cycles, whereas the other competitors, you know, they have heavy infrastructure. They have to install on rails, and it costs a lot of money. And so they're going to be much slower to be able to show that value and get the sales cycle like really rapid.
But my apologies. We're running up to time, so we have to wrap up the Q&A. But Ian,
Sure.
Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you to our judges for the questions. It was great to learn about Adaviv.
Thank you.
Next, we're ready to move to our second presenting company. It is my pleasure to welcome Jyotsna from Kiva Health to the virtual stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jyotsna Mehta. I'm the CEO and founder of Kiva Health, where we have built a remote care management SaaS platform for respiratory health. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Our story starts with my daughter, Karishma, who was diagnosed with asthma when she was 4 years old. And that's when we realized that there were no tools for adequate management of her chronic condition. We realized that 1 in 4 patients die from asthma and allergies, and there is 1 COPD death every 4 minutes. The economic burden of asthma and COPD amounts to about $130 billion. There's 25 million patients with asthma and 16 million patients with COPD, coupled with disparities, which is also a big part of social determinants of health. So the problem is essentially that technologies that are out there in chronic care are focused only on data collection and not necessarily disease management. There's lack of remote care management solutions for patients in between visits. The respiratory care illness market, unfortunately, is needing attention. It's untapped. And we all know we are in the midst of a pandemic where patient care has moved outside the doctor's office. So to solve this problem, our team developed a complete respiratory remote patient management platform. This platform is complete with physicians communicating with the patients via two-way messaging, allowing them to segment their patients, care optimization, device connectivity, and many other features. On the patient side, we have self-management action plans, videos, reminders, alerts, triggers that help them to track adherence and allow timely engagement with physicians. This is all backed by a proprietary engine that uses evidence-based guidelines that we worked with physicians to allow patients to enter their symptoms and get self-guided plans. We also are using predictive AI analytics at the back end with the big data to prevent those ER visits. Our go-to-market strategy is focused on specialty care providers. We've received extensive feedback on our tiered solution. Our basic plan is at $20 per patient per month that comes with an app and a weekly RPM report for the physician, and a premium plan that's offered at $75, giving physicians an upwards of $300 since it's fully reimbursable. The premium plan includes access to the app, the platform, and Bluetooth spirometers that patients can use at home. Our strong competitive advantage is in the fact that we have focused on specialty care on a niche area that needs attention, whereas most of the competitors out there are in the primary care RPM space. In terms of our revenues, we hope to have about 1,500 paid patients by the end of 2021, assuming they're all on the $75 plan and half of them are on the $20 plan that I just alluded to. 7,000 patients by the end of 2022. This would include both asthma and COPD. And lastly, roughly about 15,000 patients by the end of 2023. In terms of our traction, we have two ongoing pilots, one with a large-scale IDN in Massachusetts, Bay State Health, that has enrolled over 100 asthma patients. We're also working with the Peoria Public Schools in Chicago, Illinois, with about 350 asthma school children who desperately need asthma self-management at home. We have over 600 users of our current app and 20 potential physician signups in the first quarter of 2021. Our team is composed of folks with domain expertise in big data, technology, digital health, RPM. Our advisory panel is composed of renowned allergists, pulmonologists, nurses, and PCPs who are all using our platform and have given us a lot of guidance to build it. Our request right now in terms of our fundraising is $1.5 million. Our goal is to have 15,000 lives on the platform. This would allow us enough revenue for a year for marketing efforts in terms of fulfilling our sales acquisition plan, product development in terms of working on a COPD platform along with asthma, and lastly, ensuring that we can build a good customer success team, ensuring healthcare providers have access to the best remote care. We've also collected $75,000 of non-dilutive grant funding, and we remain bootstrapped so far. Thank you very much from our team. This is Keva Health. We are helping patients one breath at a time.
Thank you very much, Diasti. It's great to learn more about Keva Health, and congratulations on the recent pilots. It sounds like a very exciting opportunity. I'd love to maybe start off with Juan, since he got robbed of a question last time. You can kick us off, Juan.
Thank you. No problem at all. The questions were great last time. I was happy to wait. Thank you for the pitch. It sounds like a fantastic solution. I just had two questions. One, to what extent have you been able to prove the effectiveness of the solution at managing better outcomes?
That's a great question. So we've done multiple focus groups with asthma patients. We've also tested our solutions with doctors. And so with increasing engagement with providers and patients, because it's all for us, it's all about connecting providers with their patients. In the long term, we definitely want to see those improved outcomes and reduction in ER visits.
Okay, thank you. And then one last thing, what is the go-to-market strategy and plan? How are you getting the solution in front of doctors and patients?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. So our go-to-market strategy is focused on allergists and pulmonologists. And these folks, we have about 10,000 in terms of the numbers of allergists and pulmonologists in the country. And our hope is to reach out to them through either email campaigns or reach out to them through various mechanisms and have them test or pilot our solution. We're offering a 30-day free trial, after which they can enroll in a 3-month, 6-month, or a 1-year contract. And we also offer devices in addition.
So thanks, Jit. Interesting idea. Can you talk a bit more about the proprietary engine that you have, and as well as obviously from you mentioned, what you're really providing is on the disease management perspective. What specifically in terms of content or other things that you makes the disease management component really competitive? Or is there anything proprietary there as well?
Yes, excellent question, Khat. Thank you very much. So our proprietary engine is based on guidelines. And so it's a self-care management tool. So patients are allowed to enter their symptoms, and then they're able to get specific feedback on their care plan and what to do next. So an asthma patient would know what medications that is on their action plan. It gives them reminders if they are not feeling well or if they're exacerbated. So the engine itself is programmed to give the patients actionable things or actionable reminders. And so that's sort of the engine. The other piece of the AI engine that we are developing is predictive analytics. So what's the likelihood based on all the data, the adherence data, the spirometer data, the data that's out there in terms of knowing how many visits these patients make will allow us to build an AI model. So we would have a prediction tool for these asthma patients to predict their future exacerbations.
And Evan, we have time for a quick question for you if you've got anything.
Me, Alec, always with lots of questions.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, right. Thank you for your time. I obviously, it sounds like Khat and I are trying to get to the same point. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on this programmable, actionable reminders? Is that notification based? Is that, I know it's based off of obviously relevant information you put into the system, but how much of it is, case by case, demographic based, et cetera? Where did you source all those things from? And more specifically, how are you improving the accuracy, and what is the liability if somebody takes, an action, but maybe it has a negative effect?
That's a great question. So a lot of this is based on the disease. So if you take the example of asthma, it's a very specific, each patient's journey in asthma is very different. And so the way we start off is very basic with their action plan. And it's called a traffic signal approach. So somebody can be red, yellow, or green. And so as soon as they indicate in their app that they are yellow, there's a bunch of reminders. And these are exactly what we've tried to do is mimic what their interactions will be in the physician's office. So if they called up the physician and said, I have shortness of breath, I'm not doing well, I have chest tightness, doctor, what should I do? The next question is, have you taken your inhaler? And we start reminding them. We give them those reminders every hour, every 2 hours, every 4 hours, forcing them to make sure that they can take their medication. And this is not the only reminder. There's also self-care management in terms of, washing the inhaler attachments that they use. There's also the concept of questionnaires, patient-reported outcome questionnaires, such as your asthma treatment plan, asthma treatment questionnaire. So once they answer those 4 questions, which is very typical of the physician asking them that question when they visit in the office, that questionnaire then prompts the physician to know how controlled their asthma is. And so we are essentially, we've programmed all these questions. And so if a patient is, not doing well, is in the moderate zone or the severe zone of asthma, they would get more questions and more actionable items than somebody who was in the green zone and doing well. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Gia. Thank you. We're running out of time, so we need to move on to the next presenter. But
Yes.
but really wonderful opportunity to learn about Kiva Health, and hope that you're incredibly successful in improving better breathing for people across the world. So thank you again. With that, it's my pleasure to welcome our third presenter. Adam Fisher, the CEO of Minetics, will be joining us on the virtual stage.
Good afternoon, all. Thank you for learning more about Minetics. My name is Adam Fisher, CEO and founder of Minetics. Minetics is the Carta for debt. We set out early last year to provide a SaaS platform that revolutionizes the way commercial debt borrowers, lenders, and services manage their loans. We are transforming the way cash and information flow for this $46 trillion space in the United States, and using commercial real estate, which is about 8% of this global market, as our beachhead. A little bit of background on the team before diving into the actual product. Myself, I have extensive background both in real estate investing as well as in prop tech. Prior to launching, Minetics was head of acquisitions and capital markets for a local operator in Boston called Jumbo Capital. Prior to that, was an early employee at Hightower, which merged with VTS, focusing on their client success and onboarding team, as well as product analytics. And prior to that, I started my career at BlackRock on their CMBS modeling and analytics team. Our CTO, we're very fortunate to have Chris Rand, who joined us this past August. He has both technology expertise as well as domain expertise, having worked for Natixis on their investment banking and CMBS securitization. Prior to starting his own startup called Zation, which was a CMBS securitization platform that spun out in Texas. We also have a great group of investors. So early last year, we closed on a pre-seed round with Zig Capital. They backed many of the pioneering prop tech and fintech companies, as well as Goodwin Procter, the law firm, and personally Minta K as well. So what is the problem that we're solving here? You look at the commercial debt space, and currently it's managed inefficiently. Loan abstracts, data is in Excel, Word, no central repository. There's no structured data around this. When you think about it, we're spending, we being commercial real estate investors or other investors, tens of thousands of dollars negotiating these hundreds of pages of loan documents, and we have no way to manage all these liabilities we just agreed to. Coming from a survey that we conducted last year, 90% of the respondents don't have a technology solution to manage their loan portfolio. This is both on the borrower side as well as the lender side. 60% say they give their process a neutral or negative, and 77 would be interested in purchasing a product like Minetics to help them de-risk their loans. So what do? We start off by just structuring the data for their clients. This came directly out of my experience with with Hightower, in that if we were to send a Excel spreadsheet with 130 different fields to our clients, say, hey, fill these out, and then we can provide you, with these workflow tools or whatever it might be, they would look at us and be like, we don't even know where to start because we don't even have this data structure. So we are starting right now by structuring all that data and providing the foundation for them. As part of the structuring, we're not just extracting this data out of their loan documents, we're also tethering their data to the underlying part of the loan document. So a user can go from the abstract to the underlying part of the loan document with a click of a button. 9 out of 10 times when you actually reference an abstract, you need to reference the underlying loan document for more context because these are very complicated structures. This data then flows directly into all of our other modules, including our dashboard, that gives our users a 360-degree view of their portfolio, allows them to slice and dice the data directly in here. And in the future, we're working on enhancements to the platform that provide market intelligence, predictive analytics, ability to really ease the data between lender, borrower, and servicer, as well as several other integrations. Where we're going, as I mentioned to start, we're focusing on the $3.7 trillion commercial real estate market first. This is our beachhead into the commercial debt market as a whole. After that, looking at each individual market and participant in each market, we're focusing right now on that far left bubble, the borrower. They have the most pain experience. And then after that, moving on to the servicer and lender, that allows us to create this ecosystem for that final process where we're actually processing the escrows and the cash management for everyone. After that, we take this same process between borrower, lender, and servicer and move into other commercial debt products, including infrastructure debt, corporates, munis as well. Where we are today, we launched our product at the end of September. Since then, we have signed up 5 clients. We closed out last year by doubling our ARR to about 13 million. And then this month, we've already signed up our next client, which is included in that number, and increased that by 50% already. We've got 29 loans. Our NPS score is 67, and the pipeline that we're currently working on has a weighted ARR of about $1.3 million. Our current team is four individuals on our engineering side, led by Chris, myself, as well as gentleman Dimpesh Darji on the business side, who's formerly the global head of Naveen or TIA's global debt portfolio, and a gentleman, Brian Ramirez, who is at Wells Fargo and felt this pain on the servicing side as well. We also have 2 advisors on the team, Dan Bober, the former head of Wells Fargo servicing, as well as Aviva Fink, who's a prop tech and startup expert. And with that, I'll turn it over to any questions.
Adam, thank you very much, and really appreciate you sharing the Monetics story. I'd love to throw it over to our judges for any questions. Maybe Juan, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Thanks, Adam, for the pitch. Sounds very interesting. I guess I'm curious about the conversations that you're having with potential customers. It sounds like many of the potential customers are not using current technology solutions to manage their portfolios. So what then? I guess how are you getting them to see the light for the Monetics solution without them having any prior experience with any tech solution?
Definitely, yeah. And so if we look at, specifically the real estate space over the last decade, right? 2013, 2014, when I was at Hightower, we were, teaching real estate professionals what technology is, how to buy technology, and really not selling our product. Over the last decade, these end users have really transitioned, gained a new skill set around how do we buy technology, how do we leverage technology to mitigate our risk. And so really what we're explaining to them and walking them through is, hey, when you look as an investor, where you have the most risk, you've got a lot of liabilities you signed on the dotted line when you sign those loan documents that are just sitting in your files. And they're like, oh, we do need a way to structure this. And when we compare it to one of the technologies like a VTS that they've already deployed, it's very easy for them to make that connection.
Yeah, so I'm kind of following up on what Juan was asking. I'm really trying to understand kind of the main value here that you're providing to your customers through this platform. So if you were to take the borrower beachhead market, right, could you walk through a specific example of one borrower that maybe is currently a customer? You don't have to say the name. And what is the bottom line here? Are you saving, costs? Or time, or are you helping them increase whatever it might, revenue, whatever it might be? And then what kind of business model are you using with them?
Yeah, definitely. So easy question. Let's touch on the business model first. So we charge $1,000 per loan per year, and then $1,000 onboarding fee. That onboarding fee does all the abstraction. That onboarding fee can be compared to, having their lawyers do it at $3,000 to $5,000 per loan document. So significant savings. And we believe there's opportunity there to increase margin as well. On the value add, there's really, 2 buckets. One is the risk management, with the end goal of increasing their, investment return. So being able to be proactive instead of reactive on things such as, extension option dates. We've got great examples of a client misses an extension notice date. It's 5-6 years down the road, you forget about it. They, realize the week of or the month after that, they wanted to extend, they now have got to pay tens of thousands of, dollars from legal fees to actually renegotiate those loan documents versus our system, which will automatically remind them, 3 months, 6 months prior to that date, however often they want, that they have an extension notice date, so they have that time to do the analysis and not have to worry about, the large legal expenses on the side of missing it. Additionally, when you have to access this data just in general, we at Jumbo literally had a file cabinet in the center of the office that we would go access the loan documents with. So anytime I was doing an analysis on one of our loans, it would take me about 30 minutes to an hour to just pull the information that I need, let alone actually do the analysis. So now with Monetics, that process takes literally minutes because it's all structured. We can easily go from the 1,000-foot level all the way down to a specific loan document with a click of a button.
Wonderful. Any questions, Evan, or are you good to go?
Yeah. Actually, I do have one. The one big one is, as far as the onboarding process is concerned right now, and when you take on customers, and obviously a lot of the model, it sounds like, is based around structuring their current data and then making sure that it operates within your system. What is in general the biggest overhead as far as that barrier there? And then, more importantly, what is the near future? What are all the other barriers in the product itself today that you see as a lot of room for optimization?
Definitely. So, the big barrier today on onboarding, our biggest cost, is paralegals and lawyers that we use via Upwork to onboard them. There's kind of twofold reason why we went this path. One directly came from feedback from our clients that they don't trust AI right now to do this information, nor do, we're in the process of building trust with our clients. The last thing we want to do is say, hey, we just abstracted all your data via AI. And then the second one is, overseas. I built a team at Hightower to do all the onboarding overseas. And they're like, no, we want this to be onshore and done by at least a paralegal because of the language that's getting pulled into here. That being said, in the background, we are working on what we call Project A2, which is abstract assist. So if it takes someone 3 to 5 hours right now to abstract a set of loan documents, even if we can get that down to 50%, right, and 50% of the documents, so we can get it down to an hour and a half, that's still a 2 to 3x increasing your efficiencies. At the same point, what it allows us to do is really build the confidence with our clients of saying, hey, this is what we did with our paralegals on an abstract. This is what AI did, and you could see the deltas here. Versus just kind of going in blind with an AI, and they're like, well, is this smoke and mirrors? Is this actually working? What's the confidence and things like that?
Thank you so much, Adam. Really, really exciting to learn about Monetics.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
It's my pleasure to welcome our fourth presenter to the virtual stage. Please welcome Nick and Nick from Recover Athletics.
Hey folks, I'm Nick.
And I'm also Nick.
And we're the founders of Recover Athletics, the recovery app for runners. Our product is super simple to understand. Imagine Calm, the meditation app, but instead of for your mind, it's for your body. The Recover app shows runners exactly what exercises to do to make sure that they never get hurt after any run.
So we know if you've ever gone for a run that runners get sore, your knees hurt, your Achilles ache. But how big of a business opportunity is this? Well, there are 18 million people in the United States who run at least 100 days a year. These are crazy folks like us registering for road races before the COVID and everything. And 75% of them sustain a running related injury every year. Now, their current options before Recover were simply to pay through the nose to go see doctors who do not know anything about running related injuries, or take time away from the sport and hope it goes away. But proactive physical therapy could cut the number of these injuries in half. But before Recover, no technology really existed to make that possible and scalable and affordable for runners.
So here's how our product works. When a runner logs on to the Recover app, we create a personalized recovery routine that's customized to the athlete based on their training and soreness data. We have two cool data sets that fuel this product today. One is the Strava data that we pull through our integration with their API. Strava is the most common running tracking app in the US today. And we are able to access 90 days of training history for every athlete to begin to understand their ability as a runner. And we pair their training data with a physical therapy database that we developed with top tier researchers and PTs who are now medical advisors for the company from the Mass General Brigham ecosystem here in Boston. And we bring these two together with a matching algorithm that creates a set of videos for the runner that shows them exactly what to do to make sure that their bum knee or their Achilles tendonitis goes away. We also have tons of other content on the app that we've created with professional runners to show runners what sort of warm-ups and cool downs they need to do after their runs. We also have built an amazing community on our product platform to help us really get our brand out there over the past year. I mentioned that Strava is the data source that fuels the recovery routines that runners take advantage of, but it also allows us to build a viral feedback loop into our product. We have over 4,000 runners in our run club on the platform, and every time they use an app and complete a recovery routine, they can actually upload that back into their Strava feed to share what they're doing with their running community the same way that they do for a run or a ride. We have some pretty high profile users who are already using the product. Mark Gainey, the founder of Strava, is a public user of the Recover app. And we've had an awesome time building this product in public with our running community here in Boston over the past year.
As you might guess, it is the perfect time to be building a digital health solution. Yes, the road races are canceled, but running is having a boom like we haven't seen since Prefontaine and the golden era in the 60s of distance running. Registrations on the big tracking apps that all runners use, like Strava, Runkeeper, are up about 200% year over year. Runners like us are logging more miles because we don't have to commute in the morning, and lots of new runners are joining the sport. New runners have high incidence of injury, and serious runners, when they run more, they get injured. All this adds up to more aches and pains for us to solve. So, and a void that we need to fill to help solve it. Nobody wants to go to the doctor right now. I certainly don't want to go to the sports med clinic, which is 2 doors down from the COVID ward. And athletes are embracing at-home self-care. You know, Americans meditate now when they didn't before. And athletes are thinking, hey, I don't want to burn out at 29. I want to be Federer or Brady and go forever. So a longevity and recovery solution is super appealing to athletes, especially right now. So we launched our iOS app in May. We have a freemium business model. We've quickly scaled via Facebook ads and that viral loop that Nick mentioned on Strava to 10,000 downloads, 4,000 monthly actives. We have 750 premium subscribers active right now. We do 2.7K in MRR, and we're growing about 20% month over month.
So taking a step back, I think already we've been able to prove out traction within our beachhead market of runners. We know that within the endurance athlete community, recovery is something that's top of mind. Folks get injured all the time, and there's an urgent pain point here. But we believe that recovery is going to be bigger than just a tool for endurance athletes. As they say over at Nike, everyone who sweats is an athlete. And we know that everyone who sweats also gets sore. And we bet that everybody who's sore at some point or another wishes that they had a crutch to lean on to feel better after their workout. So we think that we're perfectly positioned over the long term to become the recovery solution for the masses, more so than just the hardcore distance runners who are on the platform today. And we have an incredible team of mentors, advisors, and investors that we've already brought on board with us who share this mission and are passionate to help us further along the journey. We raised a $350K friends and family round about a year ago and brought on some incredible strategics as part of that. We're backed by the president of Reebok and the former head VP of product and growth at Uber and Facebook. We'd love to connect with other runners out there, or really anybody who gets sweaty and sore like we do and wishes that they knew more about recovery and how to keep their bodies healthy over the long term. So we're thrilled to get to know you guys and to answer any questions that you might have.
Thanks a lot, Nick and Nick. Really exciting to learn about the application, and what a time to be equipping runners with data and with a great experience with gym's clothes. So great to have learned about the company. I'd love to throw it over to our judges. Maybe Evan, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I would actually love to. My first question, actually, Nick and Nick, thank you for obviously your time. But my first cue is, so I specifically own a Theragun, a hyper ice competitor. And I would say that this pain point you're talking through in general has always been historically a pain point of mine until I got the Theragun, which has a accompanying kind of app and process and things you should do to, sleep at night, stretch it out, whatever sport you've been running. How would you see yourself as far as long-term, obviously playing with these people, as far as connecting and integrating? And then where do you see as your, natural competitive advantage when you don't necessarily have like a hardware component? Or third, is it mostly an integration thought, long-term?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And actually, Theragun is one of the companies that we have on the docket as a potential partner for this year, because we think there's some real natural synergy between their product and creating recovery routines on our app that complement it and educate the user around how they can get incremental value out of it. So I'm really glad that you brought them up. In terms of how we see ourselves bringing value to a broader athlete community over the long term, what we're really doing is democratizing access to top tier physical therapy and top tier running research. We didn't have a chance to mention this in the pitch, but some of our advisors are Adam 1040, Sherry Blawett, and Jason Young from the hospital system here in Boston. And these are the folks who are literally leading the charge on developing physical therapy routines and the science to help a runner really, like, in a medically robust fashion, reduce their risk of injury over time. So, you mentioned that the Theragun might be helping you feel a little bit better. But if you're a runner who's putting 30 miles, a week on your legs, or you're someone who's come out of the clinic who actually has an injury, like, a Theragun is a nice to have, but it's actually not going to move the needle for you in a medical sense. And so that's the value that we're bringing. And we think over the long term, people are going to wake up to the reality, as Khat mentioned, only 5 or 6% of Americans were meditating to proactively relieve stress 5 years ago. Today, it's like 15%. People understand that taking, real proactive measures to improve their health is important. So we see a lot of synergy between hardware companies and ourselves over the long term. And ultimately, we're making it really easy to access scientific research to move the needle for yourself over the long term as a runner.
Sure. Thank you, Nick and Nick. I guess I'm curious. Well, one, I would say recovery athletics sounds like a fantastic solution. I'm curious as to why some of the larger current running communities, like Strava and Runkeeper, as you mentioned, why they haven't started to do this. It seems like such a natural fit for their existing communities.
Yeah, so it's a good question, and we've been really fortunate actually to be mentored by Mark Ganey, the founder of Strava, for the last year and a half. And when we were first getting started, actually back when we met Khat originally a while back, when we had really just a prototype and a hacky web app in market with a few hundred nerdy runners here in Boston using it, we actually posed that exact question to Mark, because he encouraged us. He was like, guys, go build the comm for runners. Go do this. Someone needs to do it. And we were like, well, you guys have 150 engineers. Like, why aren't you guys doing this? And his answer was that there are so many problems that runners need to solve to improve their performance. Like, the space that they're laser focused on is providing a data-driven coaching platform for runners at scale. And if you're a hardcore Strava user, you know that while it's super sticky, we love it, we're obsessed with it, we come back to it day over day, like, their training suite has a really long ways to go. Providing this sort of service without a coach, without that sort of human contact, is really, really hard. I mean, there's a reason why there's still tons of running coaches out there providing a competitive service to Strava. It's a hard nut to crack, and they have a long ways to go before they feel like they've really solved that space. Strava is an interesting partner for us over the long term, and I do think of them as someone who could be a potential acquirer for Recover, not out of the competitive sense though, and it's more because we actually solve a problem for them. The integration that I mentioned, we don't pay a cent for. Strava charges their other partners like Peloton and Fitbod, thousands of dollars a month for access to their API. But the reason they're giving it to us for free is because they know that runners overtrain on Strava. You get that dopamine hit when you post a really hard run. And doing that day over day elevates your rate of injury. And when a runner gets injured, they drop off the platform. They don't have a reason to come back and participate. And so for us, we solve that problem for these platforms. We started with Strava today. We'll solve it for Runkeeper, for Map My Run, eventually for Nike Run Club as well. We'll plug into all these ecosystems ultimately and really think of them as complementary players and folks that we can help by solving a problem.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Khat, we have time for one quick question. Anything on your mind?
Yeah, awesome. Nick and Nick, good to see you guys again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great to hear all the traction you've made. Would love to chat offline, obviously. But I think one question that I'm really trying to understand, obviously I'm as you know, a wannabe runner. And I know exactly what you're talking about. It seems like when you fix one problem, there's always a second problem, third problem that comes out, right? The more you train and it's a very like a personalized thing that requires a similar platform like yours that, that matches specific types of PT exercises for where in your running development stage you are. But I think what I'm trying to get at is how big this market actually is. Like, how many runners are there? I mean, obviously, you know, I would imagine like the 90% of the runners who do like 3 miles once in a while probably have 3 types of exercises that they do that works for them, right? And so like from the whole runners population, what percent really is this targeted for? And, or is that even, how do you guys think about that?
Yeah, Khat, this is a great question. I actually missed this bullet point in my speech. I was walking through my mind palace, remembering what I was going to say, and I missed this one. So we see this as $1 billion opportunity for sure. So Strava recently raised a round, put it over $1 billion. They charge customers almost the exact same amount that we do. They have 7 million-ish customers. Don't tell anyone we told you that. And they, every single one of those 7 million customers urgently needs our service. Those are athletes who are serious enough to pay for a social media coaching and tracking app, and they're definitely thinking about how to stay healthy. So as we expand into, especially into cycling, triathlon, swimming, those types of athlete communities will unlock that $1 billion value. Anybody who's paying $70 a year for Strava needs to pay $70 a year for us too.
Thank you, guys. Really, really exciting learning about the app, and hope the progress continues and accelerates, because it sounds like you're onto something. Thanks again.
Thanks much, guys. This was awesome. Play that outro music. I could hear it all night long. Thanks.
You'll hear it in a couple minutes. It's my pleasure to welcome our 5th presenter to the stage, Madison, the CEO of Mount.
Hi guys, my name is Maddie Rifkin, and I am the CEO and founder of Mount. We offer micromobility as an amenity to Airbnb properties, hotels, apartment complexes, and really any private real estate property out there. The team I put together to do this is myself. I've been in the micromobility industry for about 3 years now, really learning from the large players like Bird and Lime and Spin. And that's actually how I put together our advisory board. We have a lot of C-suite members from those mobility companies. I then met Matt about a year ago. He ran the whole jump operations in Denver, Colorado, overseeing 500 bicycles on the daily, putting them onto the streets, bringing them back, working in the warehouse, and just seeing their not path to profitability. They're all still in the red. And then Rashab is our CTO running the software portion of our company. He's been building apps for many years. Terry and Mariusz are new hires coming from the mobility industry. Terry worked down in Auckland, New Zealand, trying to bring Lime to that government and was successful. And Mariusz actually spent 6+ years at Jump developing their hardware, specifically retracting cable lock, which is part of what our solution is. So this is the expert team we have behind us. In terms of where we actually started as a bike and scooter lock company about 2 years ago. We were working with Jump, Bird, and Lime really to streamline their operations and give them a locking solution, and then realized we actually built a solution that's better than what they're offering. So we spun it out and started offering it ourselves to Airbnb hosts, which leads us to our mission, enabling travelers really to explore an environmentally friendly transportation option, but one that's a bit more tailored to their needs. And then what we learned along the way is with these large fleets, the Limes and Birds of the world offering thousands of scooters worldwide, they're not profitable, and they've been around for 3 years, and they've sunk millions of dollars into their operations. The reason they're not profitable is because 90% of the revenue generated from a scooter trip is actually put back into keeping that scooter on the streets. You're paying charging, relocation costs, repair costs. These scooters actually only last about 3 months, and then they need to be replaced. You have regulatory costs. And so it's just a very inefficient process. Now, all of those costs, every single one of them, doesn't exist in a micro fleet. So what we offer is a micro fleet, 2 to 4 scooters launched at Airbnb locations to start. And what that entails is you get custom branding, so the scooters can be outfitted to whatever that Airbnb logo might be. They come fully insured, so the host doesn't have to worry about that. And they come with our app that's custom branded as well. And custom payment options. You can charge a daily rate, an hourly rate, a weekly rate. And basically the guest will rent it from the property, take it out and use it wherever they are. The only stipulation is that they bring it back. So it actually creates this sense of ownership. And we've seen a lot less vehicles being destroyed and a pretty profitable model. Now, what this looks like in terms of our market size, we're targeting Airbnbs specifically in the United States to start. That's about 2 million properties, a very large market. But really the goal is to get these into any private real estate around the world, opening us up into a very, very large market. In terms of where we are right now, we launched 3 pilots in October, one with a hotel, a little pod millennial focused hotel in Avon, Colorado, and then 2 at co-working spaces to try and figure out exactly where our niche was. What we found out was the perfect use case was at a hotel Airbnb style. We had 100% increase in the guest satisfaction. Guests were loving them. They were taking them out for like 20-mile trips. It was very cool to see. And then we are launching 10 fleets in February and then another 20 in March. So we're on scale to really double pretty much every month in terms of micro fleets launched. We had to create a wait list because there's simply too much demand for these fleets. And so we have people putting down deposits just to join the wait list. So very eager to get these fleets at their properties. Now, the interesting thing is that we sell these fleets for $65 a month per scooter. And then we actually take initially 100% of the revenue generated until our asset is paid off. And then the host actually joins in. So they will, after that, recoup 45% of the revenue. So they have an amenity and a new revenue stream, which is really how we're driving sales and why they're liking it. So thank you so much. We really do feel that micro fleets are the future and happy to answer any questions.
Madison, thank you so much for introducing Mount. You know, I always love businesses that are enabling these already existing marketplaces and networks to make more money and be more effective. And so it's a really exciting kind of take on the market. I'd love to throw it over to our judges for any questions. Maybe Khat, do you want to start us off?
Sure, yeah. Hi, Maddie. Thank you for sharing that. I think really interesting kind of innovation on top of what the existing players here. I'm just wondering, what are the unit economics in general? Like obviously the hardware, right? You're off-the-shelf hardware, or you're already, you know, are you building your own, or not? And then the other thing is obviously from customer acquisition perspective, you know, what are some of the go-to-market strategy you have? So I guess 2 different questions.
Yes, so the unit economics, it's about $1,600 to get 1 fleet operational, which is about 2 scooters. We partnered with a scooter manufacturer to really tailor this scooter for this market. It doesn't need to be like 100 pounds like the ones you see on the streets, not as durable. So they're our scooter manufacturer. We actually manufacture and built the lock that goes on the scooter. It's a physical retracting cable lock. It's an IoT device, enables the whole system. It's basically the brains and gets it onto the app. So after 2 months of operations, the fleet is purely profit. After that, we've paid off all the costs, really, and then just making profit. In terms of our customer acquisition, we've seen the biggest increase off of Instagram. We've found that most hosts put their property on Instagram are pretty millennial focused. It's a very easy yes. There's only one person we have to really contact as opposed to a large hotel chain. So we've had anyone who sees our messages on Instagram, it's about an 80% return rate on getting them converted to a micro fleet. And then also just leveraging the network further through Facebook groups. But we found it's a word of mouth at this point. Once a host finds out about us, that kind of network in that little area they have their properties grows quickly.
Sure, I'll jump in. I guess just to follow up on the unit economics question, you mentioned that that these scooters are profitable after about 2 months. I guess I want to understand that a little bit more. What exactly are the hosts charging for access to the scooter such that it can be profitable after 2 months if it costs you $800 per scooter, to purchase?
So we recommend a pricing strategy of about $9 an hour, $17 a day, and then $65 for the week. And it's dynamic. So if it doesn't work in that market, they can change it the next week. So we estimate a scooter probably averaging around $20 a day. And that's how the unit economics work. We have found that this model is a lot cheaper than a Bird or a Lime. So even if we launch in a city that has Bird and Lime there, the host is going to take our scooter because you can spend 30 minutes on a Bird, you're going to rack up $15 of fees, and then you still haven't even gotten where you want to go. So that's what we've seen so far. The longest ride someone took on one of our scooters was actually 22 miles. They did 11 miles there, 11 miles back. It was a day rental. So we have seen people push the limits. They really enjoy the scooters, and the money is paying off.
Okay. And just one last thing, to what extent have you been able to test the durability of the scooters that you're using with some of these hosts? How long do you think they'll last?
So we've done quite extensive durability testings in a mountain town in Colorado, really to get all kind of terrain. So we're projecting our scooters to last at least a year. We found that people have more of a sense of ownership when they rent it from the property versus getting it off the street. If you're getting it off the street, they don't care what happens to it. There's no sense of ownership. But since the rental person has to bring the scooter back, it would be very obvious if they were destroying it or did something, and they're also liable. So we've seen people take very good care of them, bringing them back cleaner than when they got them. Not that they were dirty, but very larger sense of ownership.
Okay, thank you.
And there's time for one quick question, Evan, if you've got anything.
Yeah, just a general simple overview question, which is total traction to date and how many trips have been taken, and more importantly, what is your kind of retention KPI here?
Yes, so we, with our pilots, which was 2 scooters up in Avon for a month period, did 50 unique riders, and 25% of them came back and rode them again. We actually studied that and really created a scalable model, which is why we took, a few months off and are launching more in February. Sorry, what was the last part of your question?
Yeah, what your internal retention KPIs are for success.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've seen the hotel signed on again for a year-long service. Everyone else that we're launching is signed on for a year-long service, so pretty good retention so far. But yeah, definitely a lot of repeat riders.
Thank you so much, Madison. Really, really interesting business, and excited to see where it goes. Thanks for spending some time here with us this afternoon. It's my pleasure to welcome our 6th presenter to the virtual stage, Saranda, the CEO of Cause EDU.
There's a fundamental problem with the way we think about paying for college. 16, 17, 18-year-old children are expected to make one of the biggest financial decisions of their life without fully understanding the true cost or consequences of those decisions. And who do they have to help? Parents who haven't been through the process themselves in over 20 years, if at all? Financial planners and financial aid consultants who are too expensive for most families? High school guidance counselors, only half of whom are trained in financial aid counseling, and almost none of whom are financial advisors. Colleges and universities, which are not incentivized to actually tell families how much they will really be paying for school. And tools that are currently on the market, such as the net price calculator, which may be free, but are largely inaccurate. And the result, 28% of college students will drop out of school just because of money, and 3.9 million students will leave school every year with student loan debt and no degree. And with the average college dropout making $21,000 per year less than the college graduate, this is an $82 billion per year problem for this country. And our solution is Cause EDU. It's a platform that is working to democratize the college financial planning process. Now, how do we do that? For one low annual fee, we provide students and their families with a suite of financial services and access to professionals who will help them to determine the true cost of their ideal college experience and develop a strategy to pay for it. We do that in 4 ways. The first is through financial courses, including our flagship college funding strategies program, which brings together financial advisors, financial aid consultants, and college admissions counselors to teach families how to decide the best schools for them, how to determine how much their desired experience will actually cost them, and to develop a strategy to pay for it. We also have the true cost calculator, which is 10 times better than the net price calculator in the sense that it starts with more accurate data, and it tells students year by year how much they should expect to spend on their ideal experience, how much money they say they have, what the gap is, and ways to cover the gap. Third, we have True Fit College Matching, because it's not just about finding the least expensive school, but the school that will best help you to graduate on time and to enter your desired career. And finally, one-on-one coaching for families that need that additional help. Now, our market, high school students, community college students, and adult learners, which is a very untapped market when it comes to college financial planning, and prospective graduate students. Our total addressable market is around 23 million. And if we just get 5% of that market, that will be around 1.15 million students, which we equate to around $172.5 million. Now, in terms of our business model, for the financial education, our platform is $99 per year for the self-paced, one flat fee. And for the cohort, it's $199. The cohort includes live classes versus pre-recorded classes for the self-paced. We also have consultations that are on an hourly basis. And then we have enterprise solutions. So for high schools, education institutions that want to pay for our services, we provide tailored solutions for them. Now, in terms of our competitive advantage, families are looking for the least expensive solution that gives them the highest savings, the top right quadrant, and that is where we are. Now, in terms of our traction and validation, we launched in March in the middle of a pandemic, approximately 1 hour before school started shutting down. We had the worst possible timing, but we were still able to work with around 130 students, including through the Georgia State University Upward Bound TRIO program. And students through our program have saved on average $10,000 on the cost of their college education, which is almost 2 times our largest competitor. In terms of our go-to-market strategy, we are focusing on partnerships. We believe that by going directly to high schools, we will be able to not supplement, but to replace what their guidance counselors are currently doing. As I mentioned, the guidance counselors primarily are not trained in financial advising, in financial aid consulting. And because of the pandemic, especially, they have so many other things on their plate right now that this is really not being addressed the way that it should be. And so we would take this off of their hands, they would outsource to us. And we are projecting around 12,000 students in 2021, and that number will increase annually. We're actually looking at partnerships with several organizations now that would, if we get them all, would give us 38,000 students. So this 12,000 is 1/3 of what we're currently working towards. Now, in terms of our team, I'm the founder and CEO. My name is Sharonda White. We also have a CTO, and combined, we have over 3 decades of experience in college admissions, financial services, fundraising, as well as middle and high school operations. We also have a team, an extended team of financial advisors, as well as volunteers. Our volunteers come primarily from Boston University's MBA program, as well as their law clinic. We also have a board with expertise in innovation, consulting, as well as education philanthropy. And we've received funding from various sources, at this point over $100,000 in non-dilutive funding and in-kind benefits from various sources. And with that, I will close. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Sharonda. It's great to learn about Cause EDU, and certainly, never a more relevant time to be helping, families and individuals do financial planning around education. So, congratulations on the successful launch despite the really difficult circumstances last year. I'd love to throw it over to our judges if there are any questions. Maybe Khat, do you want to start us off?
Thank you for the pitch, Sharonda. Love the concept, and I think it could be highly beneficial to a great number of families. I guess I'm curious about one thing. The subscription price of $99 per year or $199 for the cohort learning. I guess I'm curious to what extent you've seen the families that you're helping and their ability to pay that subscription price. It would seem to me that a number of the families that would most likely find this particular solution very useful may not have as high ability to pay. Have you guys thought about finding some way to help those families as well that may not be able to afford the subscription, maybe through a partnership with other organizations and nonprofits that could provide scholarships maybe to your service, something like that?
So that's a great question. No, that's a great question. So that's one of the reasons that we're focusing primarily on partnerships with schools, as well as education organizations. Because if the schools are paying, then the families get the service for free. Mm-hmm. So the schools save money because instead of hiring an additional guidance counselor, they just outsource to us. We actually cost less than a guidance counselor. I've worked in operations at both the high school and middle school level, so I know how much a guidance counselor makes, and we are less than that, even if you fund for your entire junior and senior year classes. And so the students would get it for free. The schools would save money by paying us. Now, let's say, for instance, we're not going with schools. Let's say we're going to education organizations. We're looking at 2 organizations that we are currently working on securing a partnership with. One of them actually reached out to a former classmate of mine who was already doing consulting with them through her firm. She told them about us, and we will hopefully be able to bring them on board. But that's over 10,000 students that would have access to our platform. And so the goal is to do the partnerships so that the families have it for free. That is the goal. Now, there are certain demographics that would automatically get it for free, even if they come to us directly. So for instance, children who are in the foster care system, they would automatically get our services for free. So we have a list of types of students that would automatically have our services for free.
Great, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Any questions on your side, Evan?
Yeah, actually, I do. And obviously, thank you so much for this presentation. Juan and I actually had a conversation about this a few months back around these services and access. So thank you for your incredible work. But on that note, what I'd be really curious about is, from a platform perspective today, how are you handling exceptions in income and diversity on that level? And then more importantly, experience levels, et cetera. And it sounds like, long question here, it's more of a tailored MOOC platform and very interesting on obviously the calculation and the true fit college matching type side. But from that perspective, how much of your success criteria is tied to who your current and who your defined user will be in the future?
That's a great question. So you asked about income and you asked about experiences, right? So the main thing for us that we found, and I say we launched it in March, but we actually had been doing customer interviews and workshops to find out who our demographic is and what they already know. The baseline is actually lower than we initially assumed, which was a very interesting finding. And so we have financial advisors who have experience dealing with different demographics. And that's the primary way that we're able to really reach families where they are, because the reality is not everyone can speak to everyone's needs and everyone can speak to where everyone is. And so we have financial advisors who are able to do that. We have college admissions counselors, actually 2 financial advisors for now, and a college admissions counselor who are helping with the curriculum to really make sure that we're able to reach families at different levels. And so when you log into the platform, you'll be able to see that there's a kind of like a beginner, there's a, if you're a family that's starting out and you already have a certain level of experience, then there are pre-recorded courses that speak to that level that you're at. And there are different modules. So like, for instance, if you don't need the module that talks about credit and how that impacts, how much money you're able to borrow for school, then you don't take that module. If you don't need the module that talks about 529 savings plans, but you need the more basic modules, you can choose based on where you are in the process at that time. So that's how the self-paced works. It's okay, you can it's kind of like choose your own adventure, right? You say, this is where I am, you fill out the intake, and then it walks you through based on where you are and what your needs are.
We have time for a final question, Khat. Anything on your mind?
Yeah, thanks, Rhonda. Such a valuable thing that needs to exist in this world. So thank you for working on this and making such great progress. I think maybe if you could just talk a bit more about on the partnerships front. I think that's where really where it might really drive scale and maybe more access to more people, right? So on the partnerships front, how many conversations have you had so far with high schools in general? I know it's a hard market to sell into with not a lot of budget. So what has been their responses and willingness to pay for something like this? Obviously, it's increasing outcome, so I would imagine it's positive, but would love to hear.
Yes, so we've actually started reaching out to number one, high schools that are college prep, because they have the most vested interest, the most immediate vested interest in making sure that their students stay on track, because that's how they're able to really market to families, right? By saying they're a college prep high school. We also reached out to PTSAs, parent teacher student associations, because even if the schools are saying they have other priorities, the parents are saying, no, you need to get my kid into college. And so they're able to really put us in touch with the high schools, but also to really put the pressure on the high schools to continue to move forward. And as I mentioned, I do have experience as a director of operations, middle school, high school level. And so I know who to talk to, how to reach them, what their budgets are, the language to use, all of those different things. And so because of that, we literally just started cold calling. I also have experience working in executive education, where my job was to meet deadlines and meet targets. And so cold calling is easy for me. And so we have lists and we just call and email, and we're able to reach them that way. And if we can get, with the Upper Bound Trio program at Georgia State, the goal is to be able to use that to reach more Upper Bound Trio programs, of course, to say, this is the work that we're doing here, these are the results, and then to be able to expand that way. But with the other organizations and the other schools, we're also hoping to work that way as well. We've primarily targeted schools in Massachusetts and Georgia, because that's where our connections were, but we're really going to expand nationwide.
Sharonda, thank you so much for introducing Cause EDU. And as Evan said, thank you from all of us for the impact that you're making for students that are, going into higher education. It's an incredibly worthy and exciting mission. So thanks for spending time with us and sharing your story.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure now to introduce our 7th presenter today. Please welcome Carl Palmer from Boundless Robotics to the virtual stage.
Perfect. Well, thank you, judges, and thank you, OneValley, for this opportunity. My name is Carl Palmer. I'm the CEO and founder of Boundless Robotics, where we're using hydroponics, robotics, and AI to cultivate health and happiness. And so the big idea here is we want to build the largest decentralized farm system in the world. We believe that with today's technology, we can enable anyone, anywhere to grow anything, any time of the year. And with this, there's an opportunity to create a new marketplace platform for growers. So if you think about the gig economy and urban farming, we can create something like Uber Farms. But having worked at startups before, it's all about focus. And so our initial focus is going to be cannabis, because this is a really big market and it's only getting bigger. Just to give you an idea, a majority of Americans are already in favor of legalizing cannabis at a federal level. 2/3 of Americans have access to medical cannabis, and 1/3 of Americans have access to recreational or adult use cannabis. And most states already have some sort of legislation around the topic. But the question is, do people even want to grow cannabis at home? And the resounding answer is absolutely, for many, many different reasons. And it boils down to cannabis consumers are demanding a high quality cannabis flower that is guaranteed pesticide free with consistent effects, all while maintaining their privacy and at a low cost. And all of these things are solved by growing at home. But growing at home is hard if you really want a high yield and a high quality. It's time consuming, it requires a lot of expertise, and it can be extremely messy and frustrating. Well, enter Anaboto. It is our AI-enabled set it and forget it device for growing cannabis auto-magically. With it, you can expect to grow 2 ounces of high quality pesticide-free cannabis every 90 days on average. We have an artificial intelligence chef that helps enable the greater success of growing the plant, but also it lowers the cost of the hardware, which is critical for this product. We also have a mobile app that acts as the main user interface between the product and our users. And the idea here is that users should only have to relax and change the water weekly. That is it. All for $599, which means that users should expect a return on investment in less than 6 months. So really the question is, you can pay $600 for 2 ounces of cannabis, or you can spend $600 for an Anaboto, 2 ounces of cannabis, and the recurring additional 2 ounces that you grow are gonna be 1/10 of the dispensary price. So how does it work? Well, we have a patent pending variation of deep water culture hydroponics. And this means the roots are directly in the water, which makes it so that the plant can grow as fast as possible. But this is also a tricky process because you can kill the plant very quickly if you don't know what you're doing, but it's perfect for robotics and it's perfect for AI. And the machine collects all the user inputs, the environmental data, and every 15 minutes, it sends that data to the AI engine or the chef that is also collecting data from the rest of the devices in the network. On a weekly basis, it creates a custom recipe for you, your environment, and your plant. And this is all happening behind the scenes, and the user only has to change the water on a weekly basis. What's nice about this architecture is that it's very modular, so it gives us unconstrained scalability and applicability. This means that whether you want to grow cannabis or arugula, we can adapt. And it also gets better every single time. So here's an early version of how successful we've been. Both of these plants were started the same day by beginners with high quality genetic seeds. The one on the left used our technology and the one on the right did not. As for business model, well, we want to sell the Anaboto hardware starter kit for $599. It includes the AI. And as a recurring revenue stream, we're selling you the nutrient cartridge for $59, and you need a nutrient cartridge for every single grow, which means that our expected customer lifetime value is around $1,400. And we expect to reach these customers going directly, but also through partnerships. And this is just the beginning. We have many, many plans for the future, including creating other products, adapting the technology for industrial growers, and licensing our artificial intelligence. And as far as the market, I love this image, right? I mean, the market is everybody. So Democrats, Republicans, it's all of us. But we are focusing on moms and seniors to begin with. That is our initial target. And moms and seniors who consume cannabis daily or almost daily, that's about 4 million of them, which is about $5 billion in potential revenue. As for timeline and traction, I've been working on this since 2016. We had a great breakthrough in 2019. We started the company as of May 2020. We've had 5 units testing with the engineers. And in December, we built and sold 5 beta units to paying customers. And we have a backlog of more than 100 people wanting to buy this product already, on top of all the interviews that we've done. And we're fundraising so that we can prepare for scale and also to reduce our costs. As for the team, I'm Carl. I'm originally from Mexico. I've seen how bad the war on drugs has been for my country and from other communities. And I'm just very proud to be able to use my experience developing products in robotics and AI to help solve this problem with cannabis in the black market today, but also to help with food agriculture in the future. And I'm very proud and humbled that the team that has chosen to help us in this journey are a bunch of experts and people who know how to design, build, manufacture, market, and sell hardware, software, and AI products. And we just want to empower people to become more self-sustainable and healthy by growing their own crops. So let's grow together. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Carl, and really exciting to learn about your recent progress, and congratulations on the product launch. I'm sure a ton of years of work, going into those initial 5 units. So, congrats on the milestone. I'd love to throw it over to our judges. Maybe Khat, do you have any initial questions?
Yep, thanks, Alec. Carl, thank you for an awesome presentation here. Just wondering, I haven't kept up to date on this, but remind us again on, what are the latest regulations, and are there any regulatory risk here just for enabling people to grow their own, cannabis at home?
Yeah, great question. So it really varies state by state. There's about 13 states where you can grow cannabis at home. In Massachusetts, an adult can grow 6 plants. And if there are multiple adults in a household, you can grow up to 12. Colorado, California have similar rules. At the end of the day, we are a consumer electronics device. So, the regulatory aspects don't really affect us as much. But we're careful, and we want to make sure that we succeed as a company. We're not going to take risks that are just crazy. And so by focusing on the states where it's legal in New England and Colorado and in California, the market is just so big for us that we can succeed that way. But we are going to be very careful, and we're going to inform our users. I mean, we want them to be healthy. We want them to be safe. We want them to follow the law, and we'll make sure that we're all in accordance to regulatory concerns so that everybody can grow cannabis at home.
Thank you. Evan?
Yes, Juan, I hope you don't mind me jumping in on this. And obviously, thank you for your time. I know that this has been a pretty interesting pitch competition as far as diversity is concerned. So this is definitely a big opportunity to take a look at this. My question is actually twofold. One is, first part is from a unit economics side on the machine level. What is your current supply chain looking like, and what are the current delays from launching? Because I know you said you have 5 obviously in the market with hundreds of people, in the background waiting. And then the second part of that question too is from an actual retooling perspective. How difficult is it to change this thing to, say, grow arugula like you mentioned, or parsley, something out of the gate? And there's a lot of reasons for that question, but we'll start with the first one.
Yeah, so the first one is interesting, right? I mean, we've built most of these units with 3D printers, and that is expensive. And right now, the kit, including the light, including everything, is around $650, right? And so by molding these devices, by getting into volumes of 1,000 or 10,000 a year, we can very easily get the cost of everything to below $200. So our margins are pretty healthy. We're looking at 66% margins. And that's pretty healthy, so that when we do have resellers, we can share that margin with them. As for growing arugula and things like that, I've used this device to grow arugula. It came out very peppery, very delicious. So you can grow stuff on it already. It's expensive, right? For $600 to get something to just grow, a $3 head of arugula. But the question is interesting. And so essentially what you have is a plastic shell, but the main component is the computer and the access to the sensors. And so that is really the brains of the machine. What you put around it is just a plastic shell. So it really gives us a lot of potential for adapting this. And our intention clearly is, as we create the supply chains and we build more data sets for a better AI, et cetera, we're going to be able to get these devices, to retail them under $100, so that people can actually get into, growing arugula and tomatoes and things like that at a price that actually makes sense, right? Because right now it doesn't. At least not for lettuce, but it does for cannabis.
Any questions from you, Juan?
Yeah, actually, well, you actually just answered a couple of my questions with regards to the price now and into the future. But I did have one question beyond that about, I guess, to the extent that you offer any sort of grow guarantee to the user. For the users who are paying $600 for the hardware today and another $59 for the nutrient cartridge, are they getting any guarantee from you that they will actually get a successful grow in 90 days?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I mean, the way I'd like to think about product development is we should sell you a solution, not another problem. And part of that solution includes, what it is, everything that you need to be able to succeed. And we have been debating about, all right, what should we do about guaranteeing success and things like that. The other thing is we're thinking about partnerships that we can create at a state level to also get those seeds to the users, right? Because that's also kind of a gray area. And so if we can partner with genetics labs at a state level, it's great for them because then they can sell you a $10 seed and attach a $600 item, or create some incentives so that they can create, get recurring revenue through the cartridges, right? And if we get the right partnerships in place with the right seeds, and we can actually create these guarantees for our users. And of course, I would love to guarantee, if you're gonna grow, we expect you to get 2 ounces on average and to be very satisfied. And so at the very least for these initial units, we are offering 100% guarantee on everything. But then we have to work with our attorneys and everything to figure out what is the right thing to do, just because the laws are so different from a state to state basis.
Thank you so much, Carl. Really, really exciting to learn about what you're doing, and appreciate you spending some time with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
And finally, certainly last but not least, it is my pleasure to welcome our final presenter, Jacqueline Hampton, the CEO of Portico.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm Jacqueline, the founder of Portico. I appreciate you sticking in here for today. I know we're running a little over time, but I appreciate that. So let's jump right in. Coronavirus has thrown us all for a loop, especially in travel. But travel isn't dead. In fact, our inability to travel has reminded us how precious the experience is. There's a huge amount of pent-up demand, and some people are venturing out already. Planning a trip has always been complicated, but it's even more so today. Ideas come from many places: chatting with colleagues or friends over Zoom, surfing the web, Instagram, and even TikTok. And how do you avoid getting overwhelmed by all of this information and start to make sense of it? Do you find yourself with ideas scattered all over, or spending a ridiculous number of hours aggregating everything into a Google spreadsheet? Portico will rock your world. Let's take a closer look with a quick demo.
Portico is your ultimate travel organizer that helps you save, plan, and share amazing adventures, all in one place. Save ideas as you find them on other websites for future travel inspiration using our browser extension, like that underground museum you read about on a blog. When you're ready to plan for a specific trip, add it along with your dates. Use our search function to find and add what you want to check out, from that restaurant your friend said you must try to the hike you heard about at a party. Tag it to stay organized and add your own notes. You can even save emails here, like your hotel and flight confirmations, by forwarding them to Portico so that everything is in one place. Invite your travel companions to also add ideas for effortless collaboration. Explore our unique and user-generated content from the community for even more inspiration. And if you want, you can map out your days, literally with all your saved ideas, to optimize your schedule and pack in the fun. We can even provide you with directions and tell you if a place is closed so you won't be surprised when you get there. Friends want your ideas for their trip to the same place? Portico saves your trip as a story, so you can conveniently send it to friends for their future travels and keep it as a memory for yourself. And share it so other Portico members can get inspired by your travels.
So, personalization is the new standard in many industries, but not yet in travel. However, as our community grows, we'll be able to capitalize on the unique intent data that's saved in Portico to offer personalization in an unprecedented way for travelers. Portico is your digital companion for everything travel, which is why we focus on the entire life cycle in contrast to most of our competition. The breadth of what what happens in Portico outstrips that of our competitors. And when we're able to layer in the personalized content, there will be no comparison. Leisure travel was an $800 billion industry. Now, COVID has dampened that, but it will undoubtedly recover. It's integral to many of our lives. And in fact, half the adult population in the US researches travel each year. And coming out of COVID, there's a huge focus on being more intentional when we travel and an increased opportunity for slow travel, given the ability to work remotely. We're a leading indicator of what's to come, and our community tripled in 2020. And there's tremendous opportunity ahead, particularly with the light at the end of the tunnel with vaccines. We're a community of over 3,600 curious explorers who have saved over 32,000 ideas and trips, ranging from the expected Paris and Tokyo to remote destinations like Antarctica and Rwanda. The average active user saves 20 ideas, while our most engaged save over 100 ideas in their trips. With respect to marketing, virality is built into the product with co-travelers and sharing your favorites after the fact. We've also experimented with guest blog posts, micro-influencers, and SEM. In general, consumer subscription models have been revived, and a freemium model in Portico makes perfect sense. But we would be remiss to not also pursue native advertising, as it can flow seamlessly into the product and provide value to our community. So we'll be pursuing both of these this year. From timing to TripAdvisor to lastminute.com and beyond, our team blends both UK and US travel expertise with experience in creating tech products. We also have an amazing group of freelancers and advisors who passionately support our mission. So we recognize that the opportunity is now, and we have this amazing team which is committed to moving ahead as fast as we can. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I'd love to throw it over to our judges to get started and dive into Portico a little bit more. Maybe Juan, do you want to kick it off?
I actually don't have any questions. Love the. I'm certainly a world explorer myself, and I'm always looking for interesting applications to plan and save trips. So I'll be checking this out for sure. Thank you.
Throw it to Evan, maybe.
Yeah, thank you so much. And obviously, Jacqueline, a great product. I actually did a road trip from Tennessee to California and back, which was brutal. And a lot of the planning was done actually through Google Maps, which was also savage. It was a really nightmare of an experience. So having something that could have organized my thoughts in a better manner instead of going into an Airtable or Google Sheet would have been super useful. My question in general around monetization and growth is, as we kind of gear up with this pent up demand, are you thinking, because I saw you have like a web plugin and browser, and then obviously you're collecting demographic data, et cetera, and there's obviously an advertising angle. Are you looking towards potentially in the future, not only just from an advertising perspective, but using that data in any manner to suggest any kind of e-commerce or reselling or anything along those lines, as far as any third-party partners that currently exist, for example, like maps or...
Not from a reselling standpoint necessarily. So what we've been primarily focused on is already how we do our travel guides. We go and we work with local partners who we know have content which is interesting, and it's effectively a branding exercise for them to reach our audience, but they can tell them about all the art cafes in Paris because they give art tours in Paris. So the advertising, as opposed to a reselling out, would be bringing them in and giving them more opportunities to participate, whether when you search in Portico, we provide inspirations through sponsored emails. So the former publisher of Travel and Leisure is actually one of our advisors. So we've been thinking through some different avenues with him. So does that make sense, Evan?
Totally. And you nailed exactly what I was hoping you'd say. Okay.
Anything on your side, Khat?
Jackie, really interesting product idea. Obviously, I also did kind of a similar road trip thing and really struggled with trying to pull that together.
All Google Sheets and Google Maps, back and forth all the time.
Yeah, exactly. But I would imagine, like travel trip planning has been a problem for a long time, and there's a lot of players who kind of started in that and then failed and things like that. Who are some of the up and coming competitors here?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right, Khat. It is a littered graveyard. The world has changed significantly. So I was CEO of SpringPad, which is a personal organizer back in 2014. And even just looking at what we could deal with from a technology perspective then, it's significantly different. People are more on their phones, they're more comfortable sharing the data. So two players that we watched quite quickly, one is called Trip Scout. Those are the first people who were able to convince VCs that you could do daily inspiration for travel. There's still a little bit more on the inspiration side and then have some trip planning pieces worked into it. The other one is called Wanderlog, who secretly General Catalyst has backed, although I've never seen that in press, but I know that for a fact. And they are focused slightly on the other side, which is around the trip planning aspect, and then in particular, doing stories. So the team there is an ex-Google group. So there used to be a little bit of a Google Trips focused. It's kind of shifted a little bit, if that makes sense. I'm happy to talk more about any of this later too. So. And I should mention everything that you saw just now and in the video is our web product, which is our most robust product, but we did launch our iPhone app at the end of last year and are continuing to improve, enhance that every couple of weeks. So next time I talk to you guys, the video will be new and it'll have some of those shots in there. So
wonderful. Any final questions from our judges? Well, Jacqueline, thank you so much for waiting around. Again, certainly last but not least, really exciting to hear about Portico. And I think we're all ready to plan our next trip.
It's a nice way to end the night, Alec. Everyone can go travel dream tonight about where they want to go at the end of the year. So
exactly. No, a little wanderlust is definitely coming down. So thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Really appreciate it. And best of luck going forward.
Thank you.
And so with that, we have completed our pitches. I want to give a special thanks to all of our presenters, 8 really exciting companies, dynamic founders. Again, I think we've been seeing in the chat all night that this is going to be a hard decision, and I don't envy our judges at all. I want to thank Khat, Juan, and Evon as well for spending the time with us tonight and sharing some of their perspective. So everyone, what we need you to do is wait with us for about 3 to 4 minutes. We're going to tally up the scores, get everything figured out, and then we are going to be back before you know it to tell you who our winner is. Thanks again, and we'll see you in 1 minute. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you so much for bearing with us and waiting as we got all our scores together. Again, a really exciting, incredible pitch event tonight. Again, we wish we could crown every single one of these presenters as winners. They're all clearly going on to build some really exciting companies. But before we get into the startup winner, it's my pleasure to announce our audience winner, who got a free Passport membership for voting and being engaged and active throughout the process. And that audience winner was Kieran, the CEO of Gaming Analytics. Kieran will reach out to you and get you set up on Passport. And again, we appreciate everyone who voted, everyone who participated, makes these events extra fun. Next, and again, what you got, for winning, Kieran, as well as our winning company, is a full free membership to Passport with up to $1 million in discounted tools and services. And again, this is something that's available to everybody with a 25% discount code using Pitch today if you want to join the Passport community. Now, our People's Choice Award. This was the most popular presentation from our audience. They're going to win $500. And without further ado, our winner is Boundless Robotics. So congratulations to Carl and the Boundless Robotics team. Sounds like your waiting list is going to be getting even larger as people look to get the platform into their home. So congratulations, and hope that you scale production before too long, because it seems like there's a lot of interest and demand. Finally, we're really excited to announce our winning company tonight, the grand prize winner, who again will receive $3,000 in cash as well as a free year of Passport membership. And that I'm excited to announce is Adaviv. So congratulations to Ian and the Adaviv team. Really exciting agricultural technology and intelligence going into the farming ecosystem, and excited to see that get deployed, more further, deeper into the market. Congratulations again to the Adaviv team. It's a really exciting business that's being built there. So that is, that's our day, our pitch competition for today. A great thank you to all of our startups across Boston that are staying engaged in the community and participating. And we'd also like to announce our next Founders Pitch Night, which is particularly focused around HBCU founders who are coming out of historically Black colleges and universities. It's part of our Black Founder Scholarship Program and our attempt to bring more and more activity and focus to underrepresented founders across the ecosystem. So we hope that you'll join us on February 25th for a great group of early stage founders coming through one of our partners. With that, if you want to continue engaging between then, we'd say join Passport. You can sign up for a free membership at any point. You can explore, meet the community. If you're a US-based startup, take a look at our Brex Scholarship. It's a great way to get involved in the community through an exceptional partner, Brex. And then finally, never forget to request introductions to the startups that you saw here tonight. It's a great way to build the network and engage. And with that, thank you all.